Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jodi-Ann Coore.
Brought to you by VC's Electrical Sales. Quality products at affordable prices.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVMTV.
So much more than entertainment.
Need to estimate your duty? Perform a track and trace? Search for a declaration?
Then download the Jamaica Customs mobile app today. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
12 p.m.
Thanks for joining us for CVM News at Noon. It's Monday, January 19, 2026. I'm Amoy Harriet. Up first, CVM News has been reliably informed that Cherie Martin has been tapped as interim chief executive officer of NCB Financial Group pending formal announcement by the company. Martin, a seasoned financial executive, is widely regarded within the regional banking and corporate sector for her extensive leadership experience, strategic management skills, and deep institutional knowledge of the organization. She has held several senior roles within the NCB Group over the years, contributing to key areas of operations, governance, and business development. Legendary Jamaican musician Stephen Cat Coore died on Sunday. He was 69. Coore was a founding member and musical director of Third World, whose pioneering fusion of reggae, soul, funk, pop, and rock helped shape the reggae fusion sound and propel Jamaican music onto the global stage. Under his musical leadership, Third World achieved international acclaim with enduring classics such as Now That We Found Love, 96 Degrees in the Shade, and Try Love, becoming one of Jamaica's longest running and most successful bands. In a release on Monday, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Olivia Grange hailed Coore as a unique talent who she described as the reggae ambassador. She said he was a distinguished musician and his passing is a tremendous loss. Meanwhile, tributes have been pouring in for former UN Ambassador Curtis Ward, who died last week. Ambassador Ward, who's described by many as a towering figure in Jamaica's diplomatic and intellectual life, died at his home in Maryland, United States. For decades, he was a familiar and trusted voice on foreign affairs and a tireless advocate for principled engagement on the world stage.
Ambassador Curtis Ward was more than just a family man, as his career spanned academia, diplomacy, and public service. He served Jamaica with distinction in a number of senior diplomatic posts, advising governments and representing the island at international fora. As a scholar, he produced influential analysis on Caribbean foreign policy, regional integration, and the challenges facing small states in a turbulent global order. Dubbed a prolific writer and the founder of the Ward Post, his writing and commentary helped shape policy debates and brought clarity to complex international issues for both policymakers and the wider public. Politically, Ambassador Ward was respected across the spectrum for his independence of mind and his insistence on ethical conduct in public life. He advised successive administrations, mentored young diplomats, and remained a steady presence in national conversations about sovereignty, development, and Jamaica's role in the world. Colleagues remember him as a bridge builder, combining intellectual rigor with a deep sense of patriotism.
He was my mentor, my friend. He was a good man who believed in Jamaica, who believed in the Caribbean. In fact, one would say he was the person for the times that we're in now, in articulating in an eloquent way the challenges that we face as a people, especially those of us living in the diaspora. he was not afraid to speak up and to stand up for what is right. And he made no apologies.
The People's National Party, in a statement, praised Ambassador Ward's voice of reason, depth, and perspective, and extended condolences to his wife Sonia, family, and friends. The party also noted his lasting contribution to Jamaica's understanding of international affairs and pledged to honor his legacy of service.
There are those who will say many in leadership liked him because he was saying the things that they did not have, some would say, the guts to say. He said it on their behalf. We shall miss him. However, to those of us like myself who have been schooled by him, counseled by him, we recognize our responsibility to continue to be good citizens. That's what he was all about. Making the place better for us as a people. I extend my condolences to his family, to his wife, especially Sonia, who stood by him all throughout. We shall miss the Ward posts. However, he has left us a rich history.
Ambassador Ward served as Jamaica's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations for Security Council Affairs from 1999 to 2002 and advised the UN Counterterrorism Committee. An attorney and international consultant, he specialized in anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism, sanctions, and rule of law, and was a respected geopolitical analyst and a human rights advocate.
Following Friday's protest at the Cornwall Regional Hospital, President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, JMDA, Dr. Renee Bedreau, says the association met with hospital administrators and the Regional Technical Director for the Western Regional Health Authority to discuss solutions to problems being faced at the hospital. However, the JMDA president notes that while dialogue has begun, several urgent interventions are still needed to prevent further deterioration of services at the institution.
The planned intermediate actions by the authorities were the strengthening of primary care services and the construction of a field hospital. In order to accommodate the excess patients currently housed in A&E, the Accident and Emergency Department, in the immediate sense, the authorities committed to completing repairs on the ward within a 3-week timeline. The JMDA is absolutely in support of any action that would better the situation at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. However, our concern is this. Even when the wards are restored to their full pre-Melissa capacity, available spaces within the wards would still remain limited. The problem existed before Melissa and has only been worsened by Melissa. The new Cornwall Regional Hospital needs to be finished. Our patients need to be in a space that affords them their dignity and their safety.
More than 20,000 residents of Runaway Bay and the surrounding communities in St. Anne are now accessing improved primary healthcare services following the refurbishment of the Runaway Bay Community Health Center, which underwent major upgrades under the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Operation Refresh program, with the facility officially handed over by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tofton. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has officially pulled back the curtain on roofs, a targeted shelter recovery program supported by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. The Restoration of Owner or Occupant Family Shelter Initiative will function as a lifeline for the country's most vulnerable. Crystal Williams has the details.
Grant support under roofs, that's the restoration of owner or occupant family shelter, is allocated based on verified damage assessments. The shelter relief program is supported by an allocation of 10 billion Jamaican dollars. The damage categories were broken down by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness.
75,000 minor damage. You have to make a contribution to that process. For major damage, we are assessing that you may have lost a section of your roof that would amount to maybe a room, but the structure is still intact it's still functional, it's accessible. You still have some shelter, but there's great inconvenience. And the severe damage would mean that you would have lost probably roof accounting for more than 2 rooms, or a total loss. The structure is inaccessible or totally damaged. And for that, you get $500,000.
He says owners of damaged residential homes may receive one benefit per household.
If you are an owner of several houses, you can only get one benefit. Right? This is not for the greedy. This is for the needy. I have to be clear on that, which is why we do an assessment. We take your TRN. We make sure you are uniquely identified so that you can't get a benefit here and then come over and get another benefit there. What that does is deprive someone who really needs a benefit where you would have gotten twice.
The Prime Minister says the assessment for this program led by the JDF will deploy monetary assistance to those who are truly in need.
What are your critical needs? Some people say my critical need right now is to get furniture, because water intrusion was really my issue, damage all my furniture. I don't have any bed, I don't have anything. Some people may say, boy, I need to get back things for my children to go back to school, or some other need. And that is what you would categorize as rehabilitation. But if it says my major need now is housing and shelter, then clearly you are under the roof program.
Crystal Williams, CVM News.
And it's time now for a break, but stay with us. Our live interview comes up next.
Hi, I'm Landy. Welcome to NLA Connect, the National Land Agency's customer engagement platform. NLA Connect is a simple, user-friendly platform designed to help you share your feedback, get support, and updates about land-related matters. Available 24/7, NLA Connect allows you to share suggestions, comments, and commendations, submit queries and report issues, attach files with your requests, track requests and get real-time status updates, connect with NLA client engagement officers, and provide feedback on the service received by the platform. We're making it easier for you to connect with us. You can access NLA Connect via our website, using the kiosk at any of our offices, or scanning the QR code displayed at our locations. Need any help along the way? Check out our FAQs section. It has all the answers you need in one location. NLA Connect, your voice, our priority.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes. Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jodi-Ann Coore.
Brought to you by VC's Electrical Sales. Quality products at affordable prices.
Welcome back to CVM News Afternoon. The Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, says it's now rebuilding the backbone of the electricity grid in St. Elizabeth as part of the final phase of restoration following Hurricane Melissa, with some residents still without power more than 2 months later. But at the same time, the company is warning the public about a fraudulent investment scam using the JPS name. Joining us now is JPS's Media and Public Relations Manager, Audrey Williams. Good afternoon, Ms. Williams.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Amoy. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here, as always. Now, the big question, when exactly will the remaining communities that don't have power now are expected to be restored?
Well, giving hard timelines is something that we actually don't like to do. We prefer to deliver and then say, here you go, we have done X or Y. We have found that in trying to give timelines, just about anything is possible. You can have a change of weather, you can have an accident, God forbid, you can come up on unexpected challenges. Even though you've done your damage assessment, even though you know what's out there, anything is possible. So what we have decided to do, and I do believe with a great deal of success, what we've done is we've said, okay, we're working in X areas, and when we bring you in, then we say we have now accomplished X, Y, or Z. What we can say to our customers is that we do see you, and we are working to bring you in as quickly as possible. We have held to all of the very general timelines that we have offered. At this point in time, we're at 93% restored across the island, and most parishes are down to single digits, if at all, out. Of course, I think we all know that the parishes that have significant portions of the customer base out are in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. In Westmoreland, it is 43% out, which means, of course, that 57% of the customers do have power. So we have crossed the halfway mark for both St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. Westmoreland, like I said, is 57% in, and St. Elizabeth 60% in. And we're getting there. The transmission backbone, as you opened, is really critical to providing power supply to the rest of the customers in the parish. And we, of course, always target first, as best we can, the essential services, followed by the larger communities and then the smaller communities. Right now, in terms of essential services, and these are across the board, we have restored 87% of the critical size of the other essential services. For Digicel, it's 87%, for Flow, it's 82%, and for NWC, it's 91% of their critical sites have been energized. And we continue to work in that wise. The latest energization being in Roaring River in Westmoreland. Of course, they also did make a point, NWC did make a point of saying that they also had some repairs to do. So persons may not see water right now, but they can speak to that. That is their area. But just to say that we provided the power, they do have some repairs to do as well. And perhaps there are other issues unknown to us that would prevent that, but we brought the power to the pump.
So the transmission you mentioned earlier, I know JPS sent out a release recently where you guys said that restoration follows a specific order, starting with transmission lines and substations. How exactly do you explain this whole process to residents when you're on the ground, for these persons who may feel that their communities aren't being prioritized? How do you explain this process to them?
Well, one of the things that we do is we can use other analogies. Terms like transmission and distribution and so on, they're not everyday terms that people use, and that's understandable. So we can use the analogy, for example, of a river. The water comes from the source and makes its way down to the communities and to the tributaries and so on. I personally like the example of using a wholesale. So you have the producer, the factory, that is your power generation plant. And then you have whatever is bought in bulk carried to the wholesalers. I like to think of those as a transmission. And then you have the smaller suppliers, your retailers. Those are now your distribution. And so it makes its way down to you in the community. And it's not necessarily that your community is not prioritized. Everybody is a priority. But if the factory is down or if the wholesalers have a blockage in their system, then understandably, it's not getting out to the corner shop as we'd like it to. We have been meeting with people in the communities. We've had a number of pop-ups. We call it pop-ups. They're really energization hubs. We go into the community, and we know that for customers who have been waiting for a while, they may have particular frustrations. So we facilitate charging of devices. We hand out sometimes water, ice. We come with internet so people can receive their messages, make their calls, send out their messages, and so on. This is really just going hand in hand with the effort to get people back on the grid as quickly and as safely as possible.
Now I want to pivot a little bit. There's currently a fake JPS investment scheme that's circulating online, pretty much asking Jamaicans to invest some $40,000. How widespread is this scam, and what steps exactly has JPS taken in terms of warning the public? Aside from just warning the public, what